would suggest that the broad remit of Paper 130 should mean that the subject of regional devolution should have a separate policy paper in its own right. Sadly, section 2.3.2 of this paper has a mere 270 words on proposals, which are little more than a reiteration of devolution on demand. I've argued a case against part of this since 2015 in a policy passed by the East of England Regional Party, calling for fair devolution for all districts, not arbitrary, incoherent and piecemeal devolution, not devolution just favouring city regions, not devolution that gives no consideration to the constitutional mess it leaves in its wake. We were not alone. Other regions such as the North West and Yorks and Humber have passed motions on devolution. Those of us disappointed in our attempts to get devolution on a federal conference agenda had hoped Paper 130 would resolve the issue and offer a clearer and more definitive model for devolution within England. Section 232 describes a tier of government brought about by permissive legislation to empower combinations of authorities and choosing from a menu of powers. What's wrong with this? Civil servants drawing lines on a map in dark rooms in Whitehall is clearly a dreadful prospect. Yet, an entirely locally led permissive solution without additional qualification is equally flawed because it implies self-selective devolution and first come, first served. Those first off the starting blocks will form regions within no framework and with no obligation to consider the ability of other neighbouring districts to form viable regions themselves. We can have neither a top-down imposed solution nor an unfettered, unmanaged free-for-all. This is all about process, not about lines on the map. There must be a clear direction and clear goals. No areas left disenfranchised, disadvantaged by the prior actions of others, no unempowered second-class citizens. What about the powers to be devolved? Well, one could say, is it not bad enough that we have two classes of MPs thanks to Scotland's substantial devolution, but a system in which a multitude of English regions each have an arbitrary selection of powers, a West Midlands question, a Wessex question, and a Westmoreland question, all rolled up with the West Lothian question? Is that actually a structure of governance the electorate will be able to engage with? Now, the UK, it has to be said, cannot have a perfectly symmetric constitution, as was highlighted a minute ago, to simply compare our vastly different four home nations. Regions within England, however formed, will not be equal either. Yet we must have a rational framework and direction. Symmetry should be a goal where practicable, alongside the recognition of different local needs. But a laissez-faire attitude, allowing any old stuff to develop, somehow hoping that a nice, tidy federal United Kingdom will drop out of the meat grinder at the end of the day, no. This is essentially what Paper 117 offered in 2014, and that was of far greater substance than the passing mention afforded to this topic in Paper 130. Please reject Section 2.3.2 by accepting this amendment and to replace it. We call on the party to recognise what the English regional parties have called for previously and to engage properly with them in the future. We call for a better process and for more comprehensive Liberal Democrat goals for a new United Kingdom. We call for a fair and a rationally devised devolution for all corners of England and for a process capable of delivering that. Please support Amendment 1. Thank you very much indeed.